Hello out there to all my canceled comrades. This is DS Lyons of the Movie Blues. And today we're going to be going over 10 of my all-time favorite canceled sci-fi and horror TV series. Now you may be wondering why I'm recommending shows that ended before they ended.
What? I love garbage.
Fear not, these absolutely stellar series are still absolutely worth your time. Plus, you never know when a reboot or a new season of a show is actually on the horizon. I mean, up until a couple weeks ago, I had Ridley Scott's The Terror as #1 on this list, and then boom, season 3 got announced. Understandably, a lot of these shows were canceled because sci-fi and horror, especially, need a lot more ambition, scope, locales, and money to produce. So that means that even while these shows are gone forever, they at least left behind something interesting, cool, ambitious, and awesome to watch. So strap in and get ready to get really scared and then really canceled, because these are 10 of the greatest sci-fi horror TV shows to ever get canned.
Number 10, Surface.
Okay, let's start this long list of heartbreaks out with one of my favorite sci-fi TV shows from the early 2000s, Surface. Back in 2005, Surface premiered on NBC during the absolute height of Lost fever, which was kind of like the California gold rush of genre TV shows that followed the success of Lost. I've made a whole video on this channel about the Lost Extended Universe, a series of 15 or more TV shows that popped up during the unprecedented run of that series. That show spawned so many high-concept shows into the ether, but so few of them actually survived. Of the Lost extended TV boom, Surface was always one of my favorites. Starring the gorgeous and talented Lake Bell in her first major TV role, Surface followed the stories of 3 different characters who ultimately intersect while investigating the emergence of a new and terrifying species of marine life. Yes, this is maybe the only sea monster TV show ever made, and it's a damn good one. Government conspiracies, large-scale disasters, and thrilling encounters with the monsters in question pepper the series, which jumps from Jaws-style horror to E.T.-style family drama effortlessly throughout its first season run. I won't lie to you, this is one of the few cancellations on this list that happens to end with a massive plot twist and cliffhanger. While this can be really frustrating for people, I always find these abrupt cancellations at least a little interesting, because it allows you to really use your imagination to project where the series was actually headed. And if Lost, or Heroes, or any other major show at the time is used as an example, maybe the end of something this mysterious isn't really worth knowing after all.
And it always ends the same.
Regardless of that, Surface is a tense, family-friendly, but ultimately thrilling sea monster series that I wish could have survived its eventual drowning due to low ratings. Still, this is one of my favorite sci-fi series ever, and it's totally worth it if you want a blast of early 2000s nostalgia and one of the most interesting sea monster fables ever put to screen. Also, oh my god, Lake Bell. Mommy!
Watching?
Number 9, The River.
In terms of high-budget, high-concept horror TV, look no further than the first found-footage TV series ever, The River, produced by Steven Spielberg. So far on my channel, I've made 2 separate videos about the best found-footage movies ever, so it should come as no shock that The River made this list. Before the also-cancelled Archive 81 on Netflix, there was The River, the first found-footage TV series ever, created by Oren Peli, the director of Paranormal Activity. This show dropped in 2012 during the height of found footage and Lost copycat fever, and follows a documentary crew as they go hunting in the most treacherous and mysterious stretch of the Amazon River for a lost explorer. Said explorer, who is a popular fictional nature nut figure like Steve Irwin, is played by the always incredible Bruce Greenwood of Star Trek and Fall of the House of Usher fame, and he provides a fantastic and believable backbone to the series. While this is another show to end on a massive twist, you gotta give it to the team behind The River. They not only produced a great found footage TV show, but they set it in a expensive and gorgeous locale as well, with the film splitting its shoots between Puerto Rico and ultimately Hawaii for the rest of its season. So if you're looking for a scary, pulpy, and verdant green horror series that feels like Heart of Darkness by way of Paranormal Activity, look no further than The River, which was sadly canceled due to, once again, low viewership, and probably the risky and expensive cost of shooting the series. Regardless, this is a trip down the river that you won't regret taking, and it kind of reminds me of the movie Anaconda with Ice Cube, so That's always good. Always a good thing.
Number 8. Helix.
Next up on our list is a mix of both horror and sci-fi genres with 2014's Helix, a show that I always keep near and dear to me. With the recent, somewhat polarizing success of True Detective Night Country, you might want to follow that series up with another show that takes place on a mysterious Arctic research station filled with horrifying secrets. Boom. Helix. Mom says you want True Detective Night Country, we got it at home, that's Helix. Helix is Timu Night Country without all the native and lady stuff. Helix is a heady crossbreed between Lost, The Thing, and a little bit of Resident Evil along the way. And it's a tightly written, thrilling sci-fi yarn that produced one of my favorite first seasons of any show from the time. Starring the Rocketeer himself, Billy Campbell, and the fantastic Hiroyuki Sanada from Lost and Shogun, and every movie or TV show where you needed a mysterious Japanese man, this is the dude, he's number one, this is your man. Helix is a nail-biting Arctic horror tale that will please fans of everything from Alien to The Terror. Sadly, this one moved from its brilliant Arctic locale to a weird religious cult on an island for its second season. Sure, they were investigating threads that were developed in Season 1, but the loss of its incredible Season 1 setting and iconography seemed to leave fans of the show out in the cold. To this day, even on its own, Season 1 of Helix is one of the best runs of a sci-fi TV show ever. Produced by Ronald Moore of Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica fame, Helix had everything going for it, and now is lost in the ice freeze of time. Still, you can get this bad boy on Blu-ray or digital, which I highly recommend checking out.
Number 7. Castle Rock.
For just over a decade, the phrase, produced by J.J. Abrams, was a golden ticket. Now it's more of a scarlet letter. But one of the best last things to have J.J. Abrams' name on it is the fantastic series Castle Rock from Hulu. If you're familiar with this channel, then you'll know that I love Stephen King, for all of his strengths and faults.
All hail Stephen, king of the lesbians!
All hail Stephen King!
What? Huh?
Of the lesbians!
Castle Rock did a great job of taking all the strongest aspects of King's writing and then cramming them into a blender. Using the fictional town of Castle Rock that King includes in many of his most famous novels, for what was supposed to be an unending anthology series, Castle Rock attempted to crossbreed and mix the plots of many different King works into an unpredictable series that spanned the universe of his work. On any given day in Castle Rock, you might see a Cujo reference, a Salem's Lot character, or even just the hint of an Easter egg of one of King's masterpieces. Now, a lot of people prefer the pulpier and gorier second season of the show that follows Annie Wilkes from Misery as she crosses paths with some of the most evil creatures from another one of King's works. But for me, it was the first season of this show that absolutely leveled me and had me standing and clapping by the end of the series. For the good ones, I get off my couch. It's technically exercise, but it's also praise. Starring Sissy Spacek in one of her best roles since King's iconic Carrie, and with Bill Skarsgård giving a performance equally as haunting as his Pennywise from It, Castle Rock is a literal cornucopia of King references, meta-inclusions of actors across his work, and ideas that both reflect King's best stories, while sometimes even adapting them. Castle Rock was a fantastic remix of King's best elements, which is a great idea because most of King's work fails as single adaptations without massive revisions or reimaginings. As a King fan, as a J.J. Abrams fan, formerly, I found this show to be utterly gripping, brutal, and unforgettable. There's nothing stopping you from starting Season 1 immediately. It's a literal 10 out of 10 first season, with potentially one of the best bottle episodes in TV history, starring Spacek in an incredible latter career performance that you will never forget. Although it was canceled, both seasons of Castle Rock are absolutely watchable as their own singular anthology efforts. Check them out.
Number 6. Invasion.
Okay, I know I'm starting to sound like a broken clock, but this next show, Invasion, is another product of the Lost boom. Look, it's not my fault that it was the golden age of starting high-concept horror sci-fi TV shows and then abandoning them. Invasion was an absolutely fantastic, high-concept, high-paranoia retelling of the classic Body Snatchers parable, cleverly set during a massive hurricane in a Florida town. This Hurricane Katrina-era series used its setting and premise to great effect. with the mythology and biology of the invaders being quite unique to even the body snatcher genre. If you're a fan of movies like The Bay or the 70s Body Snatchers starring Donald Sutherland, then you'll be right at home in this series. While not having as devastating of a cliffhanger as a series like Surface, Invasion still tells a mostly complete story that will leave you absolutely riveted. A fantastic rainy day watch, and of course another gem for those who love that golden lost era of sci-fi TV, meant to be as addictive as it is mysterious. Also, you really can't go wrong with a series where William Fichtner is playing this absolutely scene-chewing villain. Fichtner is one of the finest character actors on the planet, and this is low-key one of his most commanding performances. Seek out Invasion. It's a really early 2000s classic, and it's for sure better than the Shit Snatchers movie with Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Let's get out of here, huh?
Number 5. Terra Nova.
Okay, number 5. Steven Spielberg. Dinosaurs. Stephen Lang from Avatar. Time travel. I mean, what could possibly go wrong here?
Lady Luck blowing them, doll. When she kisses me, I'm in heaven. Snake eyes. Snake eyes? Snake eyes? Oh, no! No!
This was a particularly large heartbreak for me, I will admit that. Terra Nova was Steven Spielberg's answer to the gross lack of dinosaur content in a post-JP3, pre-Jurassic World.
Alan.
And man, in retrospect, how I wish this show would have caught on and gotten 5 seasons instead of it being canceled and potentially leading to Spielberg moving on to Jurassic World. Because without a doubt, this series was more interesting than that film and surely could have led to better things than that film did. And you'd think that another Steven Spielberg dinosaur production would just be another contrived scenario to get people on screen with dinosaurs. And you'd be right. I mean, the idea that mankind travels back in time from a pollution-ravaged Earth to a prehistoric world for its endless, bountiful resources is a lot, for sure, but it's a concept that comes with cracking mysteries, huge questions, and a chance for futuristic human civilization to interact with dinosaurs in interesting new ways. Unlike the Jurassic series, Terra Nova depicts a world in which we must learn to settle a primitive Earth full of dinosaurs, which brings a lot of interesting family drama and survival dynamics into the usual dino action formula. Think Land of the Lost, but like, plus guns. I would guess that this show was just too expensive to keep alive without a massively rabid following, so it breaks my heart to this day that Terra Nova got the axe. There was a ton of potential here, and other than a kind of blah lead, this easily could have been a show that ran for 7 or so years, and it would have been an absolute blast. As it stands, Season 1 of Terra Nova is an ambitiously scoped slice of prehistoric madness that had some great sci-fi elements and an awesome main antagonist. I mean, come on, we ported in Stephen Lang from Avatar. This is awesome. You want to see Don't Breathe here hit a raptor in the face with a turkey baster, believe me. Such a shame we won't ever get to see where they intended to go with this, but if you're willing to accept the sudden loss, you'll get 13 episodes of high budget, high concept, and awesome dinosaur TV.
Number 4. Wayward Pines.
Remember that M. Night Shyamalan thing about that mysterious village where the villagers couldn't leave the village because there would be monsters outside of the village that would stop them from seeing the rest of the world around them? Yeah, what was that called? Oh right, Wayward Pines.
What a twist!
Based on the novel series by Blake Crouch, Wayward Pines was a high-concept crossbreed of The Village with Twin Peaks, offering up a surreal and bizarre yet somehow idyllic town with horrifying secrets. Fans of the Stupid as Nails show From, which I've also made a video about on this channel, as well as fans of small-town horror like the video game Alan Wake or The Mist, will absolutely chew this series up. Sadly, it only made it to 2 seasons before its cancellation, with the second season being a definite step down from the first. Yet, there was still tons of potential and setups for this show that never got the chance for a follow-through. Still, the first season of Wayward Pines is a sci-fi horror TV classic, combining the best parts of M. Night's directing and mysterious world-building skills with the horror and suspense of Crouch's riveting book series. Matt Dillon shines in the show. I mean, he always does in all of his endeavors.
You're in Wayward Pines, Idaho?
Idaho.
Should I call an ambulance?
The pilot episode, which was directed by Shyamalan, is a must for any true fans of the director's eclectic and crazy filmography. Still, season 1 of this show and its finale twist are a perfect slice of M. Night goodness that can be entirely consumed on its own regardless of cancellation. It's just that good. Anyway, make sure to seek this one out. It's a clever little horror story with some great ideas.
Number 3. Channel Zero.
Now, you may think that we have enough horror anthology series in our current media landscape, but you'd be wrong, because Channel Zero is a great case that there should be at least one more. I love horror anthologies, from the VHS series to the Theater Bazaar to the first 2 seasons of American Horror Story before it got stupid as fuck. And Channel Zero will always stick out as one of the most unique offerings in this genre. This is a series where every season is based on a separate, popular, and mostly mortifying creepypasta. For you big-time boomers and like 10 to 20% of millennials, or like my wife out there who don't know what a creepypasta is, it's an internet horror legend. Like Slender Man, if you've ever seen or heard of that documentary, or its video games, or adjoining lore. Anyway, I'm here to mostly root for the first season of Channel Zero, called Candle Cove, which in my opinion stands firmly on its own as one of the single best TV seasons in the horror genre ever. The best thing about a canceled anthology series is that you don't need to worry about missing any plot threads from a cliffhanger. As it stands, Channel Zero has 4 complete season-long stories that you can get into, with many people being fans of the latter seasons as well. Again, here mostly for Candle Cove, which is 6 hours of absolutely terrifying storytelling that I found downright chilling. The story of Season 1 centers around a town of kids, now adults, who all seem to recall the same terrifying kids' puppet program airing regularly on their TV as kids. Problem is, no evidence of the show seems to exist, and a rash of brutal murders begins to break out in the town. So psychologist Mike Painter returns to Candle Cove, where he grew up, to investigate not only the murders, but the origin of the terrifying TV show that haunted his childhood, yet seems to not exist. This is an absolutely haunting season of TV in every way imaginable, and it's a must for horror fans in general. Consider the other seasons a cherry on top of a masterpiece, but either way, I wish we lived in a world where we could have a new creepypasta anthology series every year. Alas, the show was canceled, and now, like the puppets of Candle Cove, it only exists in our distant memories. And on DVD.
Welcome to Candle Cove.
Number 2. Hannibal.
When it comes to modern-day horror literacy, there are 2 kinds of people. Those who have seen and recommend Hannibal, and those who haven't seen it at all. And to those who haven't, it's always really hard to pitch this series for whatever reason. Mostly because the first season of this show was closer to a police procedural than the actual novels by Thomas Harris. And that's fine. I mean, this was basic cable TV on NBC, so I didn't expect much off the bat. But if you give this series time to marinate, then you will become witness to some of the best horror TV ever. To say Hannibal was cooking was an understatement, with the 2nd and 3rd seasons of this show transcending the police procedural format to utterly breathtaking Baroque art. Hannibal is aesthetically the most gorgeous TV show in TV history. I said it, I will die on that hill, I don't care. And it wasn't on HBO, it didn't have a huge budget or huge stars, but by the end of season 3, every goddamn frame of this show becomes a painting. As Hannibal really begins to turn over in the oven, it reveals a bevy of unforgettable performances and more scarring set pieces than you could shake a bottle of Chianti at. Hannibal goes from skirting the Thomas Harris novels almost completely to fully embracing them, becoming this Castle Rock-esque blend of all of Harris's masterpieces all in one show, sometimes at the same time. There are moments in this show where you're seeing elements of Hannibal Rising, Ridley Scott's Hannibal, Silence of the Lambs, and Red Dragon openly interacting in the same time period, overlapping and waltzing together in brutal and horrific symmetry. Hannibal is one of the most prolific, picturesque, and absolutely gobsmacking TV series ever, with Mads Mikkelsen easily tying Anthony Hopkins for the best performance of this character out there.
You have to convince yourself the lion is not in the room. When it is, I assure you, you will know.
Mickelson is playing it kind of vague in terms of the true insanity of the cannibal doctor with absolute grace in season 1.
Clearly, you found him as distasteful as I did. On the contrary.
Before he just conquers the role of Hannibal Lecter in blood-drenched, electrifying fashion. I don't want to spoil anything further about this series, but I do want to say that I always found Brett Ratner's Red Dragon to be deeply underrated. But what was done with the plot threads from Red Dragon in this series are nothing less than mind-blowing. Fans of the books would be absolutely insane to have missed this series. In fact, anyone, anywhere who loves The Silence of the Lambs, or hell, just even horror in general, would be absolutely insane to have missed this series. Cancelled or not, Hannibal is a 10 out of 10 show that I will cling to as long as I live in terms of giving out as a recommendation. This is horror perfection personified, and it's a testament to the television format. If you haven't seen it, get ready to eat well, because Hannibal is an actual masterpiece.
Number 1. Raised by Wolves.
Thanks for sticking with us all the way to number 1. I just wanted to say that I am DS Lyons of the Movie Blues, and I will never, ever, ever get over the heartbreak that was Raised by Wolves cancellation.
Your ass! Stop filming step-grandma. Stop filming!
Oddly enough, Raised by Wolves resembles other classics on this list like Hannibal and Castle Rock, in that it takes a visionary artist's body of work and seems to remix it flawlessly across the whole series. Raised by Wolves may be a series from the genius Aaron Guzikowski, but it's also the baby of Ridley Scott's entire career. A bit of Blade Runner, a chunk of Alien, hell, even the aesthetic and vibe of Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven somehow crept into this series. And yeah, basically this show is a visual and thematic sequel to Prometheus, and that is deeply satisfying for me as well. If Ridley Scott's sci-fi universe and his love for medieval religious wars could be distilled into a singular product, it is absolutely Raised by Wolves. Both seasons of this show are sci-fi masterpieces in their own right. Both have very different tones from one another, but the same weird and fascinating mythos being built on. This show was not only unfairly canceled due to licensing HBO Max streaming rights horseshit, but it's also still to this day unavailable on Max or any streaming service. This is an utter crime of all kinds because Raised by Wolves needs a fan base now more than it ever has since its cancellation, which has led to years of speculation of a continuation. All parties involved won't say a word about it, from Ridley to showrunner and creator Guzikowski, both of which who have completely disappeared on the topic altogether. This show has absolutely everything for me. The deep mystery and mythos of a show like Lost set amongst the weirdness, beauty, and horror of Prometheus. Everything I love about sci-fi, about television shows, about Ridley Scott's entire career is on full display here in this 10 out of 10 series. Brimming with outstanding ideas, an incredible execution, breathtaking visuals, and even a beautiful theme song. Raised by Wolves is an all-time classic of science fiction that has gotten the wrong end of the stick for no good reason. And my heart breaks every day all over again when I think about this show, and that it deserved so much better than this. And that's it, people. I mean, of course, there are so many other good ones. I'd love for you to throw them down in the comments below so we can keep the conversation going. These are just my 10 favorite. I'm sure there are so many that you have been screaming at your cell phone while you're cooking and watching this for me to say, but that's your job now. Let's carry this forward, and if you guys like this video, like and subscribe to the channel, and maybe I'll make another in this very topic. Until then, I am DS Lyons of the Movie Blues, and who knows what's coming next, but I'll see you here for it. Bye.
Because I love you, and I love you, and I love you, and I've seen all your movies, and I love your movies, and I think you're the best.